I broke my son and his girlfriend up, and he doesn't know it was me. I broke up my son and his girlfriend. They had been dating for almost a year and seemed very happy. For backstory, my son moved out pretty soon after his biological father passed. He told me he wanted to expand on life because he was nervous he would waste it away being depressed over the death of someone so important to him. I understood completely and allowed him space and freedom, but we talked daily, and he visited all the time. After a while of living alone, he moved back. It was around this time that he introduced me to Kaylee. Me and Kaylee got along immediately. She liked a mother in her life, and I think she was quick to establish the relationship with me off the bat. I noticed she was extremely paranoid and had extreme trust issues, but she wasn't toxic or manipulative, just anxious about where my son was going after work. She'd ask me, and I'd answer with, he went to his friend Mike's house. They hang out to play PlayStation with each other. We both genuinely believed that my son was at Mike's house, and we had no reason to suspect he wasn't. One night, after my son came home to pick up his PS4 to hang out with Mike, Kaylee asked me to pick up some tampons and Tylenol for her. She lived close, and her periods were always super intense, so I was used to going out late into the night to help her. My son gets out of work at 4 p.m. and is usually home or at Kaylee's place by 5:30 p.m., 6 p.m. at the latest. It was 6, and he hadn't swung by to drop off his PS4, so I shot him a text before I left the house to let him know why I was gone. It was something like, "Hey, Kaylee is on her period, so I'm heading out to grab supplies. You okay?" He answered me while I was driving, and I checked it when I got to the store. It was something like, "Yeah, I'm fine. Mike needed help building a shelf he bought, so I'm staying a little later." I sent back some message saying, "Okay, be safe," all of that mother stuff. But I was not ready to see Mike working the cash register, smiling at me as soon as I walked in. I hadn't forgotten he worked here, but obviously figured it was his day off. I smiled back, but immediately I felt sick to my stomach. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe he means he is building it for Mike while he works. I couldn't even think straight. I just got the tampons, some snacks, and Tylenol for Kaylee and went to the register. Mike obviously started small talk with me, paraphrasing because my memory is bad, but it went something like this. "Hi, Mrs. Last Name." "Hello, Mike. How are you doing?" "I'm all right, getting some supplies for my son's girlfriend." I remembered he laughed, "Speaking of your son, I haven't seen him in a few weeks. I need him to give me my PS4 controller he borrowed. Can you tell him that?" I felt sick again. I didn't want to put my son in the spotlight, so I didn't mention the stories my son had been feeding me. I just smiled and said, "I'll let him know." I paid for my stuff and left quickly. I drove to Kaylee's house and gave her the supplies, but I didn't know what to say or how to say it. She was smiling and laughing and looked carefree. She asked me where my son was. I couldn't lie to her. I couldn't, so I answered honestly, "I don't know." I didn't know where he was or who he was with. I just told her to call him and ask. She thanked me, and I left her house. Later that night, at around 8 p.m., my son finally came home. I didn't say much to him, just asked him if he had fun. He said yeah and went to his room. I knew I had to tell Kaylee soon. After I went into my room and called her, I informed her of what Mike had said and how late he had gotten home. She told me that he said he was home hours ago, just tired, so he wasn't going to visit. I could tell she was crying, and I asked her if she wanted me to come over. I went to her house, and we talked about everything, and she told me she didn't want anything to do with him and wanted to break up with him immediately. I told her she could, and if she wanted, she could be honest and say I told her. I wasn't going to make an update for a few days or weeks, but I took some advice from messages I got. I just wanted to clear a few things up. First, I gave my son space and freedom, but I wanted him to be able to take time for me entirely if he wished. Throughout his teen years, whenever he was upset, he would ask me to leave him alone. I would oblige, but honestly, if he didn't speak to me for more than 3 days, I would just ask if he was okay. After his biological father died, I told him he could have a break from talking if he wanted, and I would wait for the okay to contact him. The break only lasted for maybe a week, and he wanted to call me and visit. For the actual update, Kaylee decided to give him a call. She talked things out with her sister and decided to ask him. Apparently, he was cheating, but told her that it was because she was on her period and very sensitive to everything. He said he had done it 3 other times, all while she was on her period. She called me and told me before my son told me, but in his defense, he was busy explaining things to his girlfriend and now Michael, who accidentally got wrapped into this. It's only 12 in the afternoon, and he wants to tell me in detail after work, which I told him was okay. He told me he was sorry for lying, and I told him it was okay, but it hurt my feelings. I didn't mention this in the post or to him, but his biological dad cheated on me, and that is why we are apart. He cheated on me before I was pregnant with my son and for the first year of our marriage. I did not want my son to think that was okay. I'd talked to Kaylee, and she is just head over heels for my son and said if he promises not to do it again, she would stay with him. I haven't told him that because that is not my business. They can talk about that. My son has sent me a few messages since about work, but he seems extremely sorry. I am a bit disappointed in him, but I think it's because of what I went through and how hard being a single mother after the man you thought loved you just left. Kaylee said that she would try to be a more attentive girlfriend, which honestly sucks to hear because this is not her fault. I am not going to dictate their relationship and tell her to find someone else, but it does shock me that she can forgive as much as I want to be mad at my son. I really can't. I've never gotten mad at him before, and I think this situation just brought me back to everything that happened when he was little. I hope my son can learn from this. Tonight, when we talk, I'm going to be a little strict on him, obviously, but again, he is an adult. If he says he is going to cheat on her, I cannot stop him. I really, really hope he learns.